Hey everyone, this is Natalie with your pre-show reminder that we have revamped our entire Patreon page for 2026. Now on Patreon, you can enjoy even more free content like our newsletter and some curated blog posts. If you follow the link in our show notes to sign up for our free tier, our Patreon will be working as our website, and in case anything goes weird with any of the other social media apps, it will also be the best way for you to connect with us from a social media mindset. For our paid tiers, you can look forward to even more blog posts written by me about the misogyny in real time I am experiencing, as well as ad-free listening and bonus episodes that will report on misogyny within the world, within my own life, media that is confronting misogyny or, God forbid, perpetuating misogyny, and some advice that is better served behind a paywall because we all know how mouthy I can get. So please enjoy this episode, and then after the show, go check out all of the things that are posted on our Patreon. We have chats there where you can easily get a hold of me to do things like suggest episode topics or guests or introduce yourself and start to help me build a tolerator community. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Tolerators, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Natalie Katona, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. Our guest today is Sarah Intelligator, and Sarah is a family law attorney, and author of the book Live, Laugh, Find True Love, a step-by-step guide to dating and finding a meaningful relationship by a divorce attorney. Ugh. Welcome, Sarah. Apparently, I'm not qualified to even talk about your job, let alone do it.
That's okay. I'll take the reins. I'll just speak. Don't worry about it. You just chill.
Yes. Well, please, you're a new guest. You're a new friend. So let the listeners know who you are and what you're all about.
Okay, cool. Yeah. My name's Sarah, as you said. And I'm also an attorney, as you said. I practice, I coined the term holistic divorce and family law to describe my style of practice of family law. And that really is just, something that I made up. It's not like a legit, like real term out there. And essentially what it refers to is, obviously, as a family law attorney, I have all these ethical obligations and I have to diligently and zealously represent my clients and all that good stuff. But I kind of take it upon myself to take it one step further, which is to make sure that I am looking at my clients as human beings and not just billable hours, and that I'm really looking at them from like a very holistic perspective. I'm looking at them as real human beings who have children. I'm dealing with their finances. I'm dealing with the most important things in their lives, their kids. And so I'm really trying to help them navigate this really difficult process and to hold their hand through it on an emotional level, as well as being their attorney.
Well, thank goodness for people like you.
Oh, thank you. Go on.
Oh my goodness. No, because seriously, my next follow-up question was, do you find that people are very well equipped in the, I guess, art of divorce or the art of marriage at that point too?
No, absolutely not. No to both of those questions.
And I think that we've had an episode a long time ago about just the stigmas surrounding divorce. And I feel like a big theme of this podcast is if a stigma exists, then your mom, your aunt, your grandma, they never took time to teach you anything about it because they were just hoping that you could avoid it. But then all of a sudden, like, you have all of these, like, things pushed against you or integrated into your life that are incorrect because no one's talking openly about their experiences.
Yeah, I think that's true in some cultures and communities. I think that there's actually a lot less stigma around divorce these days than there was like back in the old times. Um, and, and I think that, like I said, certain stigmas still exist in like religious communities or certain, cultures where like you do not get a divorce. Like the whole town, the whole, village is going to know about it sort of, even if it's here in Los Angeles, there are like pockets of cultural communities that they're all going to know and they're all going to be talking about it. And, but I think for the most part, I think, if anything, I think that the Gen Z millennial generations are actually very like blasé about marriage in general. Their kind of thought is, well, we can always get a divorce. I think Gen Z in particular is just shying away from marriage altogether. But I think that there's just this whole kind of, people are not really all too concerned about divorce anymore. It's just kind of like one of those things like, it's just like a breakup.
Yeah. So I'm currently, well, I've always lived in the Midwest. I just used to live in Dayton, which was a larger city in the Midwest, but I'm back to my small town roots. And I find that there is a lot of fear to at least even start the concept of filing for your own divorce or even bringing into question if your marriage is something that you want to have last for the rest of your life or forever. And I wonder if, because your book is about a guide to dating and finding a meaningful relationship, what are some things that you've learned from your clients and your experiences that made you sit down and write a book?
Oof. I've seen stuff. um, I've been through my own divorce and remarried now, but I've been through my own divorce. I've been practicing family law for close to 20 years and I've watched very, very many good people and some not so good people go through their own divorces. And, it really sucks. It's not a fun thing. It's horrible. It's financially draining. And probably the worst of it for me is that people who do have children, and who, most people who need a lawyer, for the most part, I mean, I do have some amicable cases come through my doors, but for the most part, it's because things are so contentious that they need lawyers. And so I'm seeing the worst of the worst and I'm watching what they're doing to their children. And to me, that's just the most heartbreaking and heart-wrenching thing. And if I can prevent even one child from going through this, then to me, that's worth it. So that was sort of the impetus for writing this book. It's like, I see where things go wrong on a daily basis. I've been the one going, through it. I've done it myself. I've gone wrong. And, the patterns that I see in all of these cases are just so unmistakable. It's just the same thing over and over and over again, including in my own divorce. And so I felt like I have this information, this wealth of knowledge. I need to share it with people so that they don't repeat these same patterns and make these same mistakes and end up divorced. And in doing other than what these people do, then hopefully they can actually find a meaningful and fulfilling relationship.
Yeah. What are some of the tips to finding your meaningful relationship?
All right, so I break it down into like the dirty F words, like the fail factors, and there's 6 of them. Yeah, really bad F words.
I love an F word.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's not what you're thinking, but they're the other dirty F words. Okay, and we can talk about each of them individually if you want, but basically, the 6 like patterns that I see are fundamental values, meaning people don't share fundamental values, they're not aligned on their fundamental values. Fear, foundation, fixing, family, and fairy tale. And we can go into any of those if you want, but those are like the 6 dirty F words.
I think I do want to tackle fundamental values. I was talking on the phone with a friend today, and we just got into like our self growth process during the lockdown part of the quarantine or the shelter in place part of it. I don't know what we're supposed to call it now. I feel like it had 18 different names. And one time I said shelter in place and they were like, is that what your governor called it? Because that was cute. I was like, yeah, that's what we called it. And how a lot of people got to discover a lot of new things about themselves because you just had time to think and be in a house. And how I was like, yeah, I go, I think that one of the biggest trends that I was clued into was a lot of women were looking at their husband going, oh God, you? Like, what did you just say about politics and women? And it was like the first time they had honed in on it.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny because a lot of people had commented to me about how, oh, I bet business is going to be good after this is over. And it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah.
And I think so I'm a big reality TV watcher. Um, guilty as charged. And I was talking with this friend about, Love is Blind. And I go, I think one of the more interesting things that's coming out on Love is Blind is that men are sitting on one side of a partition talking to a woman that they cannot see. So they can't even like get a feel of like how she's dressed or what her culture or background might be. But they're saying things to these women like, oh, we don't need to get into politics or anything like that. That never matters when it comes to being in love. And I just like started screaming on TikTok or to anyone who would listen to me. I was like, white men get to say that politics don't matter in your like romantic relationships because it's never them being affected adversely by politics. Like they always win. So that's a red flag. He's trying to avoid telling you that he doesn't believe that you should vote or something.
I mean, it's deeper than that, but I mean, you're just saying that I don't care about your brains or your thoughts or your opinions. You're saying I just care about what you look like and that you are this, my little trophy or whatever, because otherwise, why wouldn't you want to know someone's opinions? And more importantly, like if you want this relationship to last, you need to know whether you share fundamental values. And I would, this day and age, put politics in the category of a fundamental value.
Well, don't you think?
Don't you think? Like, I mean, I'm not seeing like a big time like MAGA guy like being with some like ultra liberal socialist. That's just probably not happening. And if they make it work somehow, like I want to know what the secret sauce is, but I don't think that it's likely to work these days.
Yeah, and it was cute in the 90s when we were watching Dharma and Greg, which is one of my favorite sitcoms of yesteryear. But it's not so cute anymore. Suddenly, all of that has gotten really, really like just light years away from one another that it's no longer a sitcom, it turns out. Or maybe it never was. I feel like I give so much empathy now to women and people who are my parents' age or older because I don't believe that they were given the tools to handle differences or even like think ahead to whether or not there would be differences. Like, I know women who just secretly voted against their husbands and pretended to vote for whoever he voted for or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I actually asked someone a couple of weeks ago. She feels very strongly in one political way, and her husband feels very strongly in another political way. And I think it was during this, not this last election, but in 2020, during that election, that he actually, in front of his entire family, said to her, if you vote for that guy, I'm not going to say who that guy was because there were two guys, but whoever that guy was, if you vote for that guy, I'm divorcing you. And she did end up voting for that guy. And she didn't tell him. And I go, how do you live knowing that he feels so differently from, I mean, like, this is like not to the point of like, okay, well, we just have to agree to disagree, but like, it's so bad and so egregious that he like actually threatened divorce, like that he does not respect your opinion, or your beliefs. And she goes, look, I'm not going to end my marriage over this. Whoever wins, there will be, they'll have their 4 years or their 8 years or whatever it is. And then they'll be gone and there'll be someone else. And I understand that these are like very divisive players right now. And she's like, it's not worth ending my marriage over. And I'm like, wow, that's really amazing because I would not be able to get over the like resentment and like, oh, so I'm not allowed to have my own opinions? Like, how dare you? You've always known my opinions and you don't get to tell me who I vote for. And if you do, like, if I do get to vote for who I want to vote for, you don't get to tell me that you're going to divorce me if I do. Like, I was like, wow, I wouldn't be able to get past that.
Well, I also, the red flag of this story is he not only, like, it's not like that was pillow talk before you fell asleep or whatever. It was like in front of his entire family. And there were a bunch of, he was trying to shame you and manipulate you into just agreeing with him. That's a red flag.
And then he asked her after the, election was over and done with, they went to the polls or whatever polling station and they cast their votes. And I think they might have seen each other walking out. And he goes, "You didn't vote for him, did you?" And she said, "No," even though she did. So she like had to lie. And I'm like, well, there you go. You can't even have honesty and trust. And like, what else are you lying about? I mean, to me, that was that, but she didn't want to end her marriage over that. So I guess everything else is great.
Yeah. When I was in my 20s and had a little less self-respect for myself than I do today in my mid 30s, I was in a relationship and it was with a man, who was unable to drive due to medical reasons. And I picked him up from hanging out with his dad and he was intoxicated. And it's so funny how people become truth tellers when all of a sudden they're a little bit drunk. And we're driving home or whatever, and he is complaining about his stepmother and how she doesn't know how to take care of his dad. And she just goes out whenever she wants and sees her girlfriends, and she doesn't even consider what he'll have for dinner, this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, the Pizza Hut app is on his phone too. And I'm like, pushing him a little bit. I go, but the two of you were out tonight, and your stepmom and I had to figure out the rest of our evening without, the two of you because you were going out and it's like a Thursday. And all of a sudden he has this epic meltdown where now he's yelling at me about like, well, it's not always about you and her and being selfish and I expect that when we're married, you're going to care a little bit more about whether or not I'm taken care of. I was like, I can barely care. Like, I have undiagnosed depression at this point. I can barely care if I'm taken care of.
I mean, when we get married, you're like, yeah, okay, well, bye.
Bye. Yeah, I was like,
Felicia.
It's time to plan my escape route. And I think that something that's linked to the fundamental values is also the fairy tale aspect that we get sold. So describe to me what you mean when you define the fairy tale.
Nice segue there, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, so fairy tale is sort of this, we have this overly idealized notion of what marriage looks like, what relationships look like in general, that we, and part of it I think is perpetuated. I don't want to blame Disney exclusively, but like, part of it is like, okay, yeah, we grew up watching Cinderella or whatever it is. But I think a large part of it is perpetuated by social media. And like, I'm not going to say social media is the devil. There are a lot of good things about social media, but I would venture to say that the worst relationships are the ones we see the most of on social media, like painting this perfect, overly idyllic version of what it is. Like, I got, look, my boyfriend got me flowers, and you got to post about it. Like, if my husband brings me flowers, I don't have to post about it because I don't have to prove to anyone or to myself that we have a good relationship. If we're out doing something, I'm enjoying the company. I don't need to post about it to show everyone that look at me, I have a boyfriend, I have a husband, like, look at me, my relationship's so great. And I find that the people who like post about it the most, they tend to like overly idealize it so people don't know how bad it is or so they feel better about it. We think that our wedding day is the thing we're working toward. And the problem is then we don't really, our selection process in a partner is about choosing anyone who will marry us as opposed to picking the right person to marry. Because if our goal is to get married, then anyone who will propose to us will do, even if they're abusive or horrible, right? But if the goal is to find the right life partner and to have a fulfilling and meaningful relationship, then that's what we're going to be looking for. We're not going to be like, get me to the proposal, get me to, and and a lot of it is like insecurity, and we can go into, a deep dive into like what is underlying it. But, people just have this like insatiable need to post their engagement or proposal photos, or to even document that. Like back in the day, like nobody documented that. Now everyone seems to have like a camera set up to document the whole damn thing. Great. I'm glad you can preserve that memory on camera now. That's great. But it's like, it's not important, because this wedding day, this proposal, is just like a little blip in your life, right? The happily ever after in Cinderella or whatever fairy tale we're looking at, like these people are like in their 20s getting married, and then they live into their 80s, 90s. Like we're not getting a glimpse into what the reality of the next 70 to 80 years looks like. We're not getting any glimpse into like who these people are, like what real people are like, and what their real struggles are, and what their real lives are like, because we're looking at royalty. Like, they don't have to worry about money. They don't have to worry about jobs. They probably have a staff on hand to take care of their children. Like they don't have to worry about stuff like we normal human beings do. So to just say like, okay, it's about getting to the wedding and then we live happily ever after, and this is all we're working toward, and this is the best day of my life, then we set ourselves up for disappointment. It's not realistic.
The way that the fairy tale always played in my dating history is that, and I think it doesn't make sense with the fairy tale, but it does, is that a man would do something wretched to me. I would tell another trusted woman about it. And immediately, because marriage and the wedding and the big white dress is the goal, she would say, well, give him the benefit of the doubt. It's like only the 18th thing he's done that's been wretched. And I do believe that that's like a big way that misogyny tricks us into these false sense of securities of saying yes to the dress and walking down the aisle, is because we're constantly taught to second guess what we see right in front of us because we have a goal in mind. And the goal, Cinderella, Ariel, Belle, any of them, they never asked those men a question on the, like, if you watch those movies, not a question is asked.
I mean, Ariel can't even speak. Isn't that her appeal?
Yeah, exactly. She can't even speak.
Yeah, that's what makes her a perfect woman, right?
Yeah. And again, like these men aren't asking any big hitters to the women that they're going to marry either. But I do think that that's so normalized to just like write it off as like a one-off, even though when you know in your head that it's not a one-off. But then we also have like all of this coded language around relationships about like, well, no one should be keeping score. Well, I'm not keeping score. I'm noticing patterns.
Yeah. Well, you should be keeping score, actually, because like I say in the book, I say that dating is a job interview. And although, we're not walking into our dates with a clipboard and a list of questions, we do need to be approaching it more critically and objectively, and not like just relying on our little butterflies in our tummies and feeling like all fluttery and the infatuation that magically wears off after 6 to 9 months in, or whatever it is, maybe a year, however long. But like, we need to actually be asking questions like, does this person share the same fundamental values as I do, or are we aligned in our fundamental values? Do we want to navigate life in a similar way? Do we have similar goals? Do this person and I have a solid foundation? Is our relationship predicated on a solid foundation? And all of these things are far more important than the wedding day, or the fact that someone's like so attractive, so hot, he's so good in bed. Like that stuff's important, but it's not as important. Like that's secondary.
Mm-hmm. What would you categorize is the most important thing to figure out during that date interview? If I did have a clipboard, and maybe I start bringing one.
Maybe you should. A little pencil behind the ear, real sexy look.
a librarian type deal.
Ooh,
Ooh.
yeah. It's a kink for some people. I don't know. I think fundamental values is number one, because I think if people, and I'm not just talking about politics, I mean, I'm talking about like fundamental values are not superficial interests. They're not superficial or fleeting things like, for example, somebody might love to travel in their 20s, right? And they might have this like wanderlust. They want to sell off all their worldly possessions and travel the world, but ultimately they want to have children. Okay. And so that person, probably their fundamental value is not like this wanderlust and travel, right? For somebody who wants to sell off all their worldly possessions, never wants to have children, and wants to be a nomad for the rest of their life, that might be a fundamental value. But for this person who's just in their 20s and they're just like out there doing their thing, living their lives while they're young, but then they ultimately want to settle down, the fundamental value that underlies that wanderlust and love for travel is probably adventure. And you might seek adventure in other ways as you settle down and have children and get married and all these things. But that's a fundamental value. That's who you are. And if you are with somebody who is completely unadventurous, hates adventure, is a homebody, you're not going to get them out of their comfort zone ever. You're going to be resentful of that person. And that's just like one of many. And the more fundamental values that you have, the better. You might not be able to ascertain someone's fundamental values on a first date, but you should be asking questions. And there's like a little exercise that I give people in a book where I have them, first I give some exercises to help people define their fundamental values. And then there's an exercise where I have them list out like 5 fundamental values and list out some questions they could ask a potential date or potential suitor, to use the old parlance, a potential suitor. Questions that would help you ascertain whether this person shares those fundamental values. And it's not because you're going to, like I said, go in with a list and a clipboard and ask all these questions, but at least you have them in the back of your mind. So while you're on the date, you don't have to like come up with something on the spot. You have like your go-to questions that if the conversation comes up, if the topic comes up about like travel, like for instance, that's something like your sense of adventure, and you're like, oh, I love to travel. Like somebody will say, oh yeah, I just went to Alaska last month. Oh, that's so cool. I've always wanted to go. Like, have you traveled anywhere else recently? And kind of like feel it out, right? That's what you should be honing in on. Not like when someone says, oh, my favorite color is blue, and you'd be like, oh, mine's red. Cool. Because that's not a fundamental value, right? Like that's not important. What you're wearing on your date isn't important. The outfit you're wearing, like the questions you ask to establish whether or not this is something that even warrants a second date, a third date, like whether it warrants exploring or just like, okay, cool. Even if you're a nice person, you're a hot person, you're a really fun person, you might have a great conversation. It might not mean it's the right person. And the longer you spend going out with this person, the more invested you'll get and the harder it will be to break it off.
Because of the sunk cost fallacy, which kind of starts immediately for me. I don't know what that, I think it's because I'm a Capricorn. Something got wired in my brain where it's like, well, if you did it once, you can do it again. and it's like, I've already invested 15 minutes. It's like I already did my hair. So I might as well sit for dinner with this person for an hour, even though 10 minutes in, I was already like, oh.
Okay, but that's fine. But if you are like, I don't know, 10 minutes in, and then you end up going on another date and another, and you're trying to talk yourself into it because you're either too afraid to be single, or you're afraid you're not going to find someone better, or you don't value yourself enough to like go out there and think that you'll find someone better, or that you deserve someone better, not better, maybe a great person, but better suited for you, then, and this is the mistake a lot of people make, because fear starts taking over when it's F words, ding, 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 here it comes. And, and so people do that. They do that. They hang on to the one good thing or the two good things, and they talk themselves into it, because the alternatives to go back out there into that horrible dating world, back on the dating apps, to be single again, it sucks.
Do you think that dating apps, so I find dating to be extremely hard nowadays because of the dating apps, and I feel like everyone just treats everyone else like a product that they can get online. It's like, it feels too much like shopping and putting people in a cart when you're swiping. Do you think that dating apps help people get a better sense of who they're going on a date with because of all of the questions that you have to fill out for a profile?
I have really mixed feelings about dating apps. I think that they can be good because they expose you obviously to a lot more people than you might otherwise encounter. And so you have a lot more options and you can try a lot more people out and maybe, one will fit, I guess. But then the other problem with the dating apps, I think the biggest issue I have with them is that we're not matching based on the criteria that we need to match with. Because ultimately, no matter what you input in there about your bio or your interests or about yourself, and no matter what they say, they're matching you with people who are similar, you're ultimately swiping based on looks.
Yeah.
And so we're not really ascertaining from the swipe process whether someone shares our fundamental values or we're aligned in the way that we want to navigate life. And I've seen dating app success stories, so I think that they are great. You just have to sift through a lot of people before you find the right one. But ultimately, I do think that what comes with that is a burnout. And that it's kind of like, back in my day, I'm really old. Back in my day, we used to have cassette tapes and radio and then CDs and bottom line is you couldn't just listen to any song you wanted unless you heard it on the radio or you had it on a CD or you heard on the radio and you stuck your cassette tape in the radio, the boom box, like right as that song came on and you hit record. That was like how you would get access to your favorite song. And nowadays, like we have every song available at our fingertips. And I remember back when I had CDs and things like that, I was like, oh, I really want to listen to this today. Like I could whip out a CD and put it in and listen to it. Now that I have any song I want to listen to available at my fingertips, I never know what to listen to. And I feel like dating apps are very similar in that way.
No, I agree. I haven't watched it yet, but I love a Hulu production. There's a new Hulu movie and it has a blonde actress in it, and my brain is going Elizabeth Banks, but it's not Elizabeth Banks. She was in the skincare movie. But
Oh yeah, I remember that one. That was
is it
good.
good? I
Yeah, the
haven't watched it.
skincare one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's dark.
There
Yeah.
But it's a biopic about the woman who really should have gotten the credit for creating Tinder, and then she eventually moved on to Bumble, and I think it's called Swiped or something. And I can't wait to watch it to see if I get like a more in-depth hatred for dating apps, because it'll give me the behind the scenes of what they were really doing.
Yeah.
Because I think like the key to dating apps is, and it also Match.com, because I was also on Match.com before we had apps on our phone. They keep you in a scarcity mindset. They're not paying to get people married because then you stop paying for your subscription, you stop scrolling, swiping, whatever, and then they lose ad revenue. And I think that it does kick in like a fight or flight sensation when I'm on the dating apps, because number one, I have to get over all of my insecurities. So when I was hoping to date men, I would be like, well, I'm a plus size girly. Like that's already a con on all of my swipes. And so I have to be realistic about what kind of men are going to be attracted to me. And it's a lot of mental, emotional legwork before you even are looking at a profile.
Yeah. And I think that that's really interesting that you say that, because the one thing I always tell people is to value themselves and to know their self-worth, because otherwise we end up settling. And I think that I see, like, for instance, like my brother, when he was on dating apps and he was doing this, it's like he was saying, oh, I'm not tall enough. All those girls are just going to scroll past me because they want someone taller. And he's like very good looking, extremely successful, like a catch by any means. I'm not saying that because he's my brother. Like this is like for reals. So, so I'm like, it's so crazy that it forces you to like assess yourself and analyze your perceived quote unquote flaws and then say, oh, but nobody's going to go for that, because we do understand that it is based on like superficiality and appearance, when you could just like swipe when you have so many options at your fingertips, as opposed to like something deeper. Because I think if you share fundamental values and you share a solid foundation in your relationship, and you have all of these wonderful things that you connect on, that the attraction grows with those things. Because you could be physically very attracted to someone, they could be a horrible person, and then you're not attracted to them anymore. And I think that the flip side of that is true as well. But the dating apps, they take that out of the process, and they force us to like really kind of think like we're to diminish our values.
Yeah, I agree. And when it comes to, oh, I had something.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I
I know, I
usurped.
don't know how to segue to it is a problem. When it came to dating apps, a lot of the mental work that I was doing was it did make me more analytical about who I wanted to date, which I don't even know if that's a good thing or not, but I was collecting data. But also because you had like almost a rap sheet, like a cheat sheet in front of you of who this person was, because of my insecurities, I would make concessions and be like, well, um, maybe a conservative will be able to take me to nice restaurants. I don't know. Like, and you just start like,
Well, yeah, you can become the thing, you can mold yourself to the thing that this person wants you to be, because you already know what they like and what they are. And, one thing that I talk about a lot in terms of relationships is like, if you're looking for something long term, like if you're looking for a casual hookup, that's fine. You can let a conservative guy take you to a nice dinner. That's fine if that's not your thing. And that's not what you're looking for long term. But I think where we make a huge mistake is that we are so insecure and we don't value ourselves enough, and we don't think highly enough of ourselves, that we pretend to be the best version of ourselves when we go on dates. From the outfit we wear, to the personality we present, to the things we say and don't say, to the filters that we put on what we say and how we say them. And I think that we're kind of presenting this like overly idealized version of ourselves that isn't authentic. And we do this because we don't think the person is going to like the authentic version of ourselves. We think that they're only going to like this idealized version of us. But if we get into a relationship and it goes somewhere and things, start to move in the direction of a serious relationship, you're going to eventually get comfortable. You're going to let your guard down. They're going to see who you really are. If they don't like you for who you are and accept you for who you are, it's not the right person. So like my advice to people is always like on the first date, be who you are. Like, don't apologize for who you are. If they don't like you, it's so much better for you and for them to know that now, because it's not like a rejection of who you are. It just means it's not the right person for you. And I think that's the disconnect, is like people see it as like a rejection of who I am. Like when someone doesn't want to go on a second date, or they ghost you, they don't call you back. And it's not. It just means that's not the right person for you, and you're not the right person for them. And that doesn't mean you're bad or there's something wrong with you. But people take it as that. They take the rejection as like, well, if I was better, or if I was better looking, or if I was this or that, then I wouldn't have been rejected. They would have wanted to continue to go out with me. It's like, but would you want to continue to go out with them if you're not the right person for them, and they're not obviously the right person for you? And like, I had to grapple with that myself many times, because it's hard not to view it as like a rejection of you.
yeah. And so one of my rejection sensitivities, is that I always feel like, and it goes along with the fairy tale, where it's the fantasy that they themselves come to the date with. And I'm still trying to like grapple how to even get this point across to people. I'm in a screenwriting class, and I just wrote a scene about it, and then told my entire class, don't read it. It's not good. I just turned it in because there was a deadline. But it's this whole idea of, before a person even sits down at the coffee date, our like natural human nature is to already kind of build up who that person sitting across from us is going to be. And I felt myself while I'm dating battling the fantasy that you're trying to project onto me because you're assuming that you're going to get have like a perfect experience or something. And then the moment that I'm like a person with my own thoughts and opinions, you're like, whoa, I don't even know you.
Yeah, I've had. I mean, I remember like dating after my divorce. I remember I was in several relationships, and I remember trying to be like the perfect, ideal woman.
Hmm.
Not because they were imposing that on me, but because I felt like, oh, well, maybe that was the reason that and my ending my marriage was sort of like a mutual decision. Like I initiated it, but it was sort of like a mutual
Yeah.
decision. So it's not like my husband said, I'm leaving you or anything like that. But I still took it as a rejection in a way that like, oh, well, when I say like things aren't working out or the reason that they weren't working out or whatever it was, like that, like I wasn't good enough or enough for him to want to hold on to, like, and that was far from the truth, but that's the narrative I had concocted in my mind. So then when I went on to date, because I had this prior in my mind, this perceived rejection, I had to be so perfect or what I thought was perfect in these relationships because then I wouldn't be rejected. And I realized that like what I was doing was totally unsustainable because I was trying to be this like really like ideal picture perfect girlfriend so that I wouldn't be rejected. And it wasn't who I was. It wasn't like my authentic self. And by the time I got to my current husband, I remember being so ridiculous on our first date because I was just like, I don't care. Like, you're getting me, you're getting the unfiltered me. And like to the point where like I was drinking, we were having fun. I think it was our second date. We went to a hockey game. And so we had been drinking, we went to a bar after, got some more drinks, like, so I was a little intoxicated, just a little. And I remember we were waiting for the train to take back, and I like remember I like decided I was just going to do a handstand in the middle of the train station because I'm like a yoga teacher, so I was like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm just going to do a handstand, and I fell over. My husband still doesn't remember this story because I reminded him about it, and so I'm like, oh thank God you don't remember. But I didn't care. I was just like, whatever, I'm gonna be silly. I'm not trying to impress him. Like, if he doesn't like who I am, like, on to the next. So yeah, I got to that point where I didn't care. And it was very liberating to just be like, I don't care if you don't like me. I'm not, I'll just move on to the next guy. So, I just like having gone from that, like needing to be this like perfect person that was not sustainable versus like, this is who I am and I'm completely unapologetic about it. I just like encourage people to find that because it's so liberating to just be who you are and like be silly and be funny and like just be authentic.
Well, and honestly, it was a good data point for you because then you got to watch how he would react to you needing care.
Yeah.
All I can imagine is you doing a handstand and then completely. I've seen this happen where I've been sitting at a winery and I've watched sorority sisters decide that they're going to do like a stunt from Bring It On. And I'm not listening to anything my friends are saying. And finally they're like, Natalie, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I'm watching these women because they're gonna fall. And
Yeah.
I really kind of want to see it.
Luckily, I did not hurt myself.
Good.
But it was like, but my ego was a little bruised because I was a little bit embarrassed, even though I didn't care. But I was like, oh my God, like, okay, I know you don't care anymore, Sarah. Like, I know you are just being who you are, but like, this is a little extreme. This is a little much. Like, if this guy sticks around, like, wow, okay.
I will say that hockey is, I famously do not sport. But hockey is one that I can get into. I don't know why. I think it's because it's so violent but
Yeah,
accepted. Like it
totally.
and it does. I remember I become like a monster when I'm watching hockey live. So I bet you it was just a lot of the hockey adrenaline because one time I was just like screaming spill his blood or something at a hockey match. And my friend was like, "Hey, Nat, like, you want to
Yeah.
process that in real time?" And I was like, "I just love hockey."
Yeah. It
Okay.
brings out, I mean, it brings out the best in people. I really think. But yeah, I mean, it was, maybe it was the hockey, but maybe it was the vodka. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, I love that because I do think that one of the things that as I move into, maybe if I ever date again, I don't know, I could be raptured today. Maybe I'm just a latecomer to the rapture. um,
Please take me.
Please take
Take
me.
me.
I don't want to work. But I think that as I move forward into dating, especially now that I've kind of explored what it would mean if I actually embraced a little bit more of my queer thoughts and actually dated women, uh, is when people ask me what I'm the most afraid of when it comes to that, I always go, I've never dated authentically. Like, I feel like I'm just like a pile of bits. Like, I'm just a walking bit. And I've never done it authentically because I was always trying to fit myself into like the heteronormative Midwest role of girlfriend and future wife and things like that. And I've never like put myself and my hopes and dreams and wishes like into the mix at all when I was having a relationship because it was just so nice to have someone want to be around me, I guess. And I it's the authentic and the sincerity part that I'm convinced I don't know. I think I have like a personality thing where it's like, well, I really am not good at not being myself, but also I also feel like I'm never doing anything authentically
Except for watching hockey,
except for watching
apparently.
hockey when I'm my truest self
Yes.
and probably professional wrestling. It does combine a lot of my niche interests, like
Yeah.
soap opera drama, their costumes,
It's amazing. It's good stuff.
violence. Yeah.
I think you need to lean into this like violence and bloodlust. I think that's really what we're getting to today. I think that's
Well,
where we've yeah.
I have had to break it to a lot of people that I don't have any tattoos currently, but I have a lot planned. And I think the first one that I'm going to get is my poison bottle. Because I don't know, I just really think we should bring it back. It was so sexy when that was like the way that we were taking care of things. I find it the sexiest conflict resolution. And and people are like, and my sister keeps asking me, like, where are you going to put it? I go, I think I'm going to make sure that it's pretty visible on my arm, my forearm, like when I'm writing and when I'm out and about in the world. And she goes, yeah. And I go, yeah. I go, because number one, if I'm paying so much for something, I want to see it every day and I want it to be visible. And also, I want people to know that I'm a threat. I go, it's somehow part of my feminism. I don't know.
So might I recommend like on your cheek, like on the side of your cheek, so it
Yeah.
looks like it's like dripping into your mouth
Yeah.
and like nothing makes a statement like a face tat. So maybe
I actually love that.
all right. And then spill blood across your chest.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do have one question before we wrap up.
Yes.
What is your ultimate, like you would tell any person ever this on a date that this is not a red flag that you should ignore because that will make your life hell later?
You know, that's a really good question. And I think it might be different for everyone. But I think something that we kind of do as people, I think it's more like something we do as opposed to something someone else does. If we're talking like across the board, is that we will hear what someone says and we then don't listen to it. We don't take their word at face value. We like read meaning into it and we're like, well, they don't actually mean that. They must mean something else because we don't want to actually take it at face value. If we do, we have to run. And so I think that like for us, that's almost like our own sort of red flag filtration system is like, listen to what people are saying and take their word at face value.
I one time, so I did do a fake version of Love is Blind over Zoom during the lock in. It was all just like fake names and cameras turned off. And I ended up dating a guy from the show, and it was supposed to be a show. I called it a show, like it actually got aired. It didn't get aired. It is one of my greatest missed opportunities. I could have been on Real Love is Blind if this mini series had ever taken off. I'm convinced. Um, but I remember I was what I would consider my most authentic self because no one's looking at you. You're talking to a black screen. It's amazing what you'll say. And I talked about all how much I love like haunted houses and I see ghosts and my grandma haunts me. And I talk to the animals at the zoo. And now all of the animals at the Columbus Zoo know me by voice and they come up to the enclosure to see me when I arrive because they're happy and just all of it. And I'm on not the first date with this guy and he brings up something of like core to my personality and we'll just say it's my love of Stevie Nicks and he brings it up in like a very sarcastic mean way and I looked at him and I went, no, Stevie Nicks or whatever it was is actually important to me. Like I said that because that's what we were doing. We were talking back and forth. And he said, no, I thought you were kidding. He goes, I thought like 85% of things were things that you were just kidding about. He goes, you really think that you see ghosts? I go, well, number one, you don't really see ghosts. That's not really how mediumship works. It's more of like a presence. I go, but yeah, I go, my grandma comes to visit and I know that she's come to visit me beyond the veil because I smell her cigarette smoke, even though I don't smoke and no one smokes in my house. Like, and he was just like, I truly, and I was like, why, of all of the things I could lie about, I would lie about my dead grandma coming to visit me? That seems rude.
Yeah, very rude.
But yeah, I do think that listening is something that across the board, everyone could learn to do better. I just had this meltdown because I felt like I was screaming for emotional attention at a lot of different people. I was like, hey, it's my PMDD week and it's all bad in my head. And then people would hear all of the badness that was happening in my head and went, I know, I'll tell Natalie about my day. We're catching up. And I'm like, I needed you to address some of the things that I said during my bad time. And I eventually just told my best friend, I was like, you're not allowed to go out of town anymore on business because you're the only person who will listen to my ramblings and be like, so what I'm hearing is you're hungry and everyone is annoying you because you're hungry. Go have a snack or go to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You need people to listen. You gotta listen. We gotta listen. We gotta hear. That's what communication is about. So many marriages and relationships end because of poor communication. It's not just about listening; it's about hearing and implementing too. You know?
And I've heard that this is also just a different way that people who might have cognitive things going on, like ADHD or fall somewhere on a spectrum or anything, that their brains operate. But my sister accuses me of this a lot, where it's like, I'm listening, but I also have like a story on deck to connect to the theme that we're talking about. And so she'll be like, I'll just be talking. And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, like that time our uncle did da 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 da. And it's like, did you even hear my story? And I'm like, well, yeah, because I offered an empathetic follow up.
Right.
Like, that's how I did it. I go, did you just want me to ask you more questions about the story I comprehended? And yeah, honestly, sometimes she does.
Yeah, I mean, people have different communication styles, and like you should communicate. Like in a relationship, like that's an important thing. You need to,
Yeah.
make sure your communication styles match up and align.
And I know we don't really believe in the love languages anymore. I think we found out that that scientist man was a bad man. I don't even I don't know.
No, I think it's still there's some legitimacy to it. I just think it's very limited and very narrow.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's the solution for everything that's going to heal a relationship. I think it's just one small component of many.
Yeah. No, correct. And I think at the end of the day, they're all the same love language. And it's like, have you seen me and noticed what I care about? Like, it's all just about that like subtle understanding that your partner is supposed to have about you.
I mean, just like basic. basic stuff.
Just
Like,
basic
yeah,
stuff.
basic stuff.
Have you noticed that I'm allergic to shellfish? Like, do you know where my EpiPen is? Like, I'm just asking for bare minimum stuff here. Sarah, this has been lovely. I didn't say it while you were walking through some of the exercises, but I do really appreciate when books like this have written exercises that people can do because it is one of the best ways to rewire your brain and actually like make forward movement in the ways that you want to heal and start thinking. So that's very cool.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. We have a nice little closing out ceremony that we do onto all the men I've tolerated before, where we offer up a final lesson and then a manifestation that we hope to put out into the energy, and hopefully the other tolerators take it to heart and carry that manifestation with them so it actually happens for us. But in all of your experience, your own divorce, being a divorce attorney, writing the book, what do you think is the lesson that you've imparted to people the most or would like to impart to people the most?
Just know your worth and value yourself and demand the best for yourself rather than settling.
And there it is. We talk a lot about self value on this podcast where it's like, hey, did you hug yourself today? Did you say a nice thing to yourself once today? And then what's a manifestation that you would like to offer up to the general energy collective?
Man, everyone just chill out and like I think people are so hung up on their dogma that in general, relationships or otherwise, that we don't stop to like at least understand the other side. And this is again in a relationship, like in a partnership, it's like we're so hung up in our own stuff and our own crap that we're not like really having empathy and compassion for what somebody else is feeling or thinking. And I think that whether we agree or we disagree with someone else, if we can have some compassion and understanding for where they're coming from, whether or not we agree or like what they're saying, then we can maybe find some unity and love for each other and some peace and humanity. So just I guess like peace.
Yeah. I try to pick one person who I have perceived as struggling a day and just like make a small moment to think like, I hope that Britney Spears found someone to be compassionate to her today. Like, I hope that Amanda Bynes found a moment of peace today. Like, just like, my favorites. And some usually it is also a friend or a loved one at some point, but a lot of the time it is Britney Spears or Amanda Bynes.
Well, they need it. So
They need it.
I'm glad that you're sending your good vibes out to them.
Because it worked for Lindsay Lohan. She's better than ever.
I mean,
Better than ever.
I want to know her. I'm not going to say her plastic surgeon because she denies that she had plastic surgery, but I want to know her people's info. Their deeds. Yeah. Send them my way.
Her facialist.
Right.
Sarah, make sure that the tolerators know all of the ways that they can connect with you. Thank you again so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So they can find me on Instagram at sarah.a.intelligator.esq or on my website, which is lafamilylawpractice.com. And they can find my book, Live, Laugh, Find True Love, on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
All right. And all of that will be linked in the show notes because I would never make anyone do homework I don't teach anymore. And remember, tolerators, you don't have to tolerate it or God, I always mess up at least one of my catchphrases. And remember, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including a relationship that is very mismatched and has run its course, but everyone keeps telling you to hold on because maybe one day you'll get happy and get to wear a really big white dress. Smiles are for joy. Run, run, run. Smiles are for happiness and for joy. That's all we're trying to tell you.